Okay, welcome to the first marathon for permutations and combinations. This is a topic from the A-level math syllabus, and you also come across this topic when you are doing your AD math exam. It's relatively easier in AD math than it is in S1. This marathon is specifically for questions from the S1 exam. So if you are doing your AS math or A2 math, whichever one you're doing S1 in, you will find this useful. If you're watching this video, please make sure to like and subscribe for more videos in the future. Okay, beginning with question number 1. There's a committee of 5 people to be chosen from 6 men and women in harmony with if there must be 3 men and 2 women on the committee. So this is a question on relatively easier one. It says if there must be 3 men and 2 women on the committee. So what I simply have to do is 6c3 into 4c2, and that should be 6c3 into 4c2 gives me 120. Here answer. So what I will have to do is I will have to construct a table of cases where I can sort of figure out the different cases that might be there. So I'm going to write men, women. I have a habit of writing the totals up here on top, so I'm going to write it like that, and then I'm going to write down the cases. If there must be more men than women on the committee, and if I'm choosing 5 people, so I'll start with the greatest number. I'll say that 5 men and there are 0 women. Then there are 4 men and there is 1 woman. There are 3 men and then there are 2 women, and that's all the cases that I have for this particular question. I'm going to calculate the combinations for each of them. 6c5 into 4c0 plus 6c4 into 4c1 plus 6c3 into 4c2. So 6c3 into 4c2 is something that I've already calculated. But since I'm doing this here right now in front of you, I'm going to add up each of them individually. 6 plus 6c4 into 4c1 is 4. That gives me 60, and that is 120 that I've already calculated. So I get a total of 186. Then part 3 says if there must be 3 men and 2 women and one particular woman refuses to be on the committee with one particular man. So whenever you have such a question, what you should do is you should separate those people who have a problem. So I'm going to say men, women, particular man, particular woman, and particular man. Okay, and I can label these both as 1 and 1. I can say that the rest of the women, there were a total of 4 women, so 3 are left here and 5 are left here. Now I'm going to construct cases again where I sort of appeal to the question and I say that there are the woman who refuses to be on the same committee with the man. So let's say the woman is selected but the man is not, so that satisfies our condition. I need a total of 2 women, so then I need 1 more woman and I need 3 men. And then let's say the man gets selected, so the woman shouldn't. Then there should be 2 women here and 2 men here. And the third case that could be true would be that both of them don't get selected, so we leave out both of them because they have a problem, and that gives us 5c3 into 3c1 into 1c1, 5c2, 3c2, and 1c1 for the man. With zeros, you could write the zeros, it doesn't matter. 3c2 and 1c0. Yeah, in fact, let's just ignore 1c0. So 5c3 is, I think, 10. Yes, it's 10, so that gives me a total of 30. 3c2 is also 3, 5c2 is also 10, so that also gives me another 30, and that gives me another 30 as well. So I get a total of 90. So a relatively easy question from June 2003, and that's question number 5 for you. Okay, scrolling up, you may not have been able to see the exact solution. Okay, moving on. Now, this is a question uh, on arrangements, largely people trying to sit on designated seats inside a minibus. As the diagram shows the seating plan for passengers in a minibus, which has 17 seats arranged in 4 rows. The back row has 5 seats, and the other 3 rows have 2 seats on each side. 11 passengers get on the minibus. How many possible seating arrangements for the 11 passengers? So, this is more of there are 17 seats and you have 11 passengers. So what I tend to do is, what I say is, you could do 17C11. Each of those people climb into the minibus, choose their seat. Now they could shuffle around between these seats, so I see that those 11 people are shuffling with 11 factorial different arrangements. Okay, and that should be the correct answer. Let's check. um, yeah. Okay, so this comes out in standard form. So you see it's 4.94 into 10 power 11, and that is something that you'll also see on your calculator. You would write it in exact form, but you'll be able to come up with that many digits on your calculator. And if you get an answer that's absolutely fine, to just two significant and write the standard form powers of 10. Uh, the next one says, how many possible seating arrangements are there if 5 particular people sit in the back row? In the back row, I have 5 seats. Now, given that 5 particular people are sitting in the back row, what you need to understand is that those seats will not be chosen anymore. You will have to arrange them correctly. So what those 5 people do is they climb into the minibus and they choose their seats. So 5 factors. Total of 17 seats and I have 12 seats, and I have another 6 people to climb. So those 12 people, though those 6 people climb, they choose their seats out of 12, and then they arrange themselves. Let's see if we get the correct answer. Now you also need to understand that this is just one way of doing the question, and when you are updating the marking scheme, over the years is that you need to be very not necessarily that the particular solution that you're writing down is correct. Yes, some people use P instead of C, but you've got to know how to use it and where to use it and where not to use it. Then again, 5C3 and 5C2 will both get me 10, but that doesn't mean that both of those answers are correct. You need to be able to tell me which one is correct and then sort of apply the solution. So I get 7, 9, 8, 3, 3, 6, 0. Okay. Then the third question says, in how many ways can 5 of the 11 passengers in the minibus be chosen if there must be 2 married couples and one other person who may or may not be married? Now, about this question quickly, that I am no longer talking about getting them to sit down. I'm just talking about choosing people who will go on to the minibus. In how many ways can 5 of the 11 passengers be chosen? So I'm no longer talking about them sitting down on the seats that were there. So that's those 17 seats are no longer relevant. You need to be able to figure that out. If there must be 2 married couples and one other person who may or may not be married, so what I can say is that if I need to choose only 5 passengers and I need to choose 2 married couples, okay, so I go back and look at the division that I have. So yeah, there are 3 married couples, so I need 2 of the married couples. So I go like 3C2. Now I'm no longer choosing the people, I'm just choosing the couples. The people will automatically get chosen. So if I choose 2 couples, what I've basically chosen is 4 different people. So I had to choose a total of 5. I already chose 4 different people in the form of couples. I'm left with 1 person to choose out of 7. Why 7? Because I am no longer interested in whether they are unmarried or married. I just need to choose them, and anyone could get chosen out of the remaining 7 people who were there, because 4 are already chosen. Okay, this should give you the correct answer. That gives me 21. Okay, moving on quickly. Moving on quickly to the next question. Question number 3. It says Assam has 11 different cities, of which 6 are pop music, 3 are jazz, and 2 are classical. How many different arrangements of all 11 CDs are on a shelf are there if the jazz CDs are all next to each other? What I first need to notice is that I'm talking about different CDs, so that they are no longer identical. Okay, of which 6 are pop, 3 are jazz, and 2 are. So I have a total of 11. How many different arrangements if the jazz CDs are all together? So I'm going to make a box for the jazz CDs, and let's try to put in 3 dashes inside, and the rest of the 8 come outside. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whenever you're putting something together and you're putting them in a box, make sure that you put a dash underneath that as well. So I have a total of 9 elements that I need to arrange that are outside the box, and the dashes outside make a total of 9 elements. Then I go inside the box and I say 3 factorial. Why? Because those jazz CDs could be arranged between themselves as well. So I get 9 factorial into 3 factorial. I get the correct answer. That's 2177280. Okay, then it says Assam makes a selection. So I'm quickly going on to combinations now. It's no longer permutations. 2 pop music CDs, 2 jazz CDs, and 1 classical. I think 2 pop music CDs. So 6C2, and then 3C2, and then 2C1. Okay, that should give me the correct answer, hopefully. Into 3 into 2. Yeah, 90. Okay, so that's quickly through 3 questions. Now, a more interesting question. It says, in a certain hotel, the lock on the door to each room can be opened by inserting a key card. The key card can be inserted only one way around. The card has a pattern of 4 holes, punched in it. The card has 4 columns, and each column can have either 1 or 2 holes punched in it. Each column has 8 different positions for holes. The diagram illustrates one particular key card with 3 holes punched in the first column, 3 in the second, and 1 in the third, and 2 in the fourth. Okay, so this is one particular key card only. You could have a lot of other choices in order when you are sort of figuring out how many holes you want to punch in. Let's see what the question says. It says, show that the number of different ways in which a column could have exactly 2 holes is 28. So what I need to do is I just need to punch the holes. So it's just about picking out one particular set of ways that you could punch holes in a card. I have to punch out exactly 2 holes, and since there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different positions to do that, so I'm going to say that I choose 8C2, which should give me 28. Okay, fairly simple. Okay, then it says part 2, find how many different patterns of holes can be punched in a column. So when I am punching holes into a column, I can punch either 1 hole or 2 holes or 3 holes or 4 holes. When I say or, it automatically means it's a different case, so you add up all those things. So you've already calculated columns which would have 2 holes in them. So you go on and calculate the rest of them as well. You say that there are some key cards with 1 hole, so 8C1, plus there are some key cards, some columns with 2 holes, so 8C2, then 8C3 and 8C4. Now remember, this is just right now one column that you are trying to figure out. You could punch in 1 hole into the column, you could punch 2 holes into the column, you could punch 3 holes into the column, or you could punch 4 holes into the column, and those are the different ways of doing it. So 8C1 gives me 8, plus 8C2 gives me 28, plus 8C3, let's add that up, 8C3 and 8C4. Okay, that gives me a total of 162 different ways of punching one particular column. So it's just one column that I'm talking about right now. Okay, then let's say part 3. Part 3 says how many different possible key cards are there. Okay, so when I'm talking about possible key cards, I'm talking about a complete key card with all 4 columns punched in. Now you see every column can have a different number of holes punched in it. So let's say this key card right in front of us has 3 holes in the first, 3 holes in the second, 1 hole in the third, and 2 holes in the fourth. You could have a different 1 hole in each, for example, or 4 holes in each. So I don't know how many holes are there, but I know that there are 162 different ways to punch holes into just one column. So what I do then is I write that in order to punch the first column 162C1, I choose one of the ways, say, and then when I go on to the next column, I say another 162C1, then another 162C1, and then another 162C1. Now why am I multiplying all of these together? Because as I've taught you before, you keep multiplying until the event ends. So the event ends when the entire key card is complete. On the other hand, if you look at the previous part, the event got completed when one column got punched. So 8C1, one column got punched, 8C2, another column got punched, and so on. So if I do this, I get 162C, 1 is 162, and 162 power 4 gives me lots of different ways, 6, 8, 8, 7, 4, 7, 5, 3, 6. So either you could write that, or you could write it correct to 3 significant figures. That's up to you. Okay, this question was from November 2002, question number 4. Okay, moving on. Let's look at this question. It says a collection of 18 books contains one Harry Potter book. Linda is choosing 6 of those books to take on a holiday. So she's choosing right now. Okay, in how many ways can she choose 6 books? I think that's fairly simple. 18C6. Everybody should be able to do that. 18C6. That gives me 1, 8, 5, 6, 4. How many of these choices will include the Harry Potter book? Okay, so if the Harry Potter book has to be selected, I'm left with 17 other books that I need to select from, and since I've already selected one, I am left with 5 other books that I need to choose, so 17C5, because one book already got selected, and that was the Harry Potter book. Part B says, in how many ways can 5 boys and 3 girls stand in a straight line? So I'm arranging them now. This question in permutations. You will notice this in a lot of questions, that one part is about permutations, the other part is about combinations, and so on. If there are no restrictions, so if there are no restrictions, that's just 8 factorial. Part 1, 8 factorial should give me the correct answer. Let's check. 40320. If the boys stand next to each other, so if the boys stand next to each other, I need to put them in a box. This box should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 3 girls outside. The box becomes a dash, so I have 3 girls outside in the box. 4 factorial, then I go inside the box, that's another 5 factorial. So 4 factorial into 5 factorial gives me 2880. Fairly simple, I think. That's November 2003, question 6. Let's quickly move on. That's question 6. It says 6 men and 3 women are standing in a supermarket queue. How many possible arrangements are there if there are no restrictions? So I think 9 factorial, that's fairly simple. I'm not really emphasizing on that. I get 9 factorial. 362880. Okay. Part 2. How many possible arrangements are there if no two of the women are standing next to each other? Now, important question. You need to understand that you need to separate the women completely. So what you do in this case is you get the men to stand first. So I'm going to put out 6 dashes. I'm going to say that all of the men are standing here. And what they can do is they can shuffle between themselves. So 6 factorial. Now, when you're getting the women to stand, you need to make sure that they're not standing together, which means that they need to have 1 man or 2 men or 3 men between them. So I'm going to say that the women can come up on these arrows. These are empty spaces that they can, choose to stand on. And there are 7 of these spaces. Now, I don't have 7 women, but I can say that they can choose 3 of these spots, 7C3, and then they can arrange themselves. So I go on and arrange themselves. This is how you separate a particular group of people who don't want to stand together, or there is some requirement in the question that forces you to separate them. I get 151200. That's part 2. So part 3, it says 3 of the people in the queue are chosen to take part in a customer survey. Now I'm choosing the people. How many different choices are there if at least 1 woman must be included? So again, now just a question on combinations rather than permutations. So I'm going to write down the totals up here. I'm going to say 6 and 3. And I'm now going to make out cases, at least 1 woman. So 1 woman and 2 men, because 3 is the total that need to be 3 of the people in the queue are to be chosen. Okay, so there could be 2 men and there could be 1 man and 3 women and 0 man. Okay, so I get 6C1, 6C2, 3C1, 6C1, 3C2, and 6C0 and 3C3. So that is 3, I think, into 6. No, 3C2. Okay, 3C2 into 6 is 18. 3C1 is also 18. 6C2 is 3C1 is 3. So I get 45. Let's see if I get the correct answer. 18 plus 1. Yep, total 64. Okay, we are down to 6 questions. Let's quickly go on. Let's look at the 7th one. A slightly different question. It says a builder is planning to build 12 houses along one side of a road. He will build 2 houses in style A, 2 houses in style B, 3 houses in style C, 4 houses in style D, and 1 house in style E. Find the number of possible arrangements of these 12 houses. These 12 houses. Okay. Now a builder is planning to build 12 houses along one side. Since it doesn't say it's different houses, it's assumed that they are identical houses. Okay. But there is something in part 3 that we need to be careful about, and we're going to talk about it when it comes up. Let's quickly look at the first part. And 12 houses, so just 12 factorial, and divided by the identical. So 2 houses in style A, 2 houses in style B, 3 houses in style C, and 4 houses in style D. 1 house in style E doesn't matter. It's not 1 is not a problem. So let's quickly do that. It's a long calculation. Let me just quickly write that down. 2 into 2 into 6 into 24, I think. Yeah. 831600. Yeah, that's fairly simple, I think. Then part 2 says the 12 houses will be in 2 groups of 6. Find the number of possible arrangements of all the houses in style A and D are in the first group. So A and D, 2 are A and 4 are D. and then I have 2 houses in style B, and 3 houses in style C, and 1 house in style E are in the second group. So how many, find the number of possible arrangements. So when you are doing this question, you will have to do each of these groups individually. So you're going to say that the first group had 6, so 6 factorial, but there were a lot of identical ones, so 2 factorial into 2 factorial. But you see now the event is right now not complete, so you don't add, you multiply. You multiply till the event gets completed, and the event will get completed when I arrange the other set of numbers as well. So 6 factorial, 2 factorial, 3 factorial, and 1 factorial. Okay, that should give me the correct answer. Let's check quickly. That gives me 900. Yep, that's the correct answer. Now, part 3 says 4 of the 12 houses will be selected. Exactly 1 house must be in style B, and exactly 1 house must be in style C. Find the number of ways in which these 4 houses can be selected. Now, since you're doing a survey, you'll be sort of surveying the families who live in the houses. Now, it's important to notice here is that I am no longer counting them as identical. Why? Because there are different houses now for me to survey, because they'll have probably different, addresses or different numbers on them, and different people living in them. So they have now become distinct houses. I'm no longer just arranging them. Yes, arrangement wise they look identical from the outside, and since we're not arranging families inside, we're just saying that I'm just arranging houses. But right now I'm surveying them, so I need to be aware that I'm no longer counting the identical part in it. So 1 house in style B, so that gives me 2C1. 1 house in style C, so that gives me 3C1. I had a total of 12 houses, 2 of them got selected, and the remaining could be any of the houses, excluding the B's and the C's. Why? Because I needed exactly 1 B and exactly 1 C. So 5 of the houses got eliminated. So I'm left with 7 A's, D's, and E's, and I need to select 2 out of them. So I'm going to get 2 into 3 into 7 C2. Yep, 126. This was a question from November 2008, and that's question number 4. Okay, moving on to the next question. Now this is an arrangement of letters. You haven't come across this as yet, but if you've seen the lecture videos before, you would have solved an entire sort of set of questions that talk about letters and all the problems that you can have with letters. Okay, if you haven't watched those videos, I would strongly recommend that you go on and watch those first before you watch this marathon beyond this question. It says find the number of different ways that 9 letters of the word happiness can be arranged in a line. Okay, now this is something that we have also done in class, that I tend to write the letters like this. It tells me how many of these letters are identical. Okay, so that's happiness. I see that there are 9 letters, and 2 P's and 2 S's are identical. So when I'm arranging them in a straight line, it's just simply a 9 factorial and then 2 P's and 2 S. Okay, 9 factorial divided by 4. 90720. Part 2. It says 9 letters of the word happiness can be arranged in a random order in a line. Find the probability that the 3 vowels A, E, and I are not all next to each other. So again, I need to separate them. Are not all next to each other. Okay. It says find the probability. So that's one thing that I need to notice. I'm now calculating probability. So whenever you are doing probability, remember that your denominator is always going to be the unrestricted arrangements or combinations in the case of combinations, but unrestricted number of ways of doing that task, which is something that I've already calculated in part 1. 90720 should be my denominator. Now what I want is that I don't want all the vowels together, are not all next to each other. So two of them could be next to each other. So that's important. So all not together can simply be 1 minus probability of together. So what I can do is I can, because together is easy, I can just sort of put them in a box and shuffle them around and get my answer. But not together is difficult to imagine that way, which two are together, or all three of them not together, or so on. Okay, so 1 minus together takes care of all of that. So I'm going to say that 90720 is the denominator. Now for the numerator, what I want you to understand is that together is simple to calculate. I'm going to put the vowels inside, 3 and then 6 dashes outside. 6. Okay, so the box becomes a dash. Okay, this is me calculating together for you. Okay, I think the logo is coming off. So I get 7 factorial, but there are 2 p's and 2 s's that I've arranged here, and then I go inside the box, 3 factorial. So what does that give me? Let's see what that gives me. 7 factorial into 6 divided by 4. It gives me 7560, so I'm going to write that here. Let's see if that gives me the correct answer. 720. Yep, that's 11 over 12 here, which is 0.917. If I round it off to decimal numbers, you can write whichever one you want. Both answers should be correct. Okay. Part 3. Find the number of different selections of 4 letters of the 9 letters of the word happiness, which contain no p's and either 1 or 2 s's. So I think that question has been made simple by eliminating all the p's. So I'm just talking about H, A, I, N, E, S, and S. And either I want 1 S or 2 S. I want to select how many letters, and I want to select simply 4 letters. So I can say that there's one case with 1 S, there's another case with 2 S. When I have 1 S, I can select 3 other letters, so that's 5C3, and that I think is 10. 5C3 gives me 10, I think, yeah. 10. And when I've already selected 2S, I'm going to say 5C2. Okay, remember that you don't need to select the identical things, so you get a total of 20. It's written weirdly, it's 20. Okay, moving on quickly. Question number 9 says an English examination consists of 8 questions in part A and 3 questions in part B. Candidates choose 6 questions. The order in which questions chosen do not matter, so I'm just choosing them, and I'm assuming the questions are different. Find the number. That's a basic the idea of an exam. Find the number of ways in which 6 questions can be chosen in each of the following cases. So let's see what this is about. There are no restrictions on which questions can be chosen. So if there are no restrictions, so there are a total of 11. And so 11C6. What does that give me? $462. That was easy. Part 2, candidates must choose at least 4 questions from part A. So let's talk about this. A and B, I'm going to write the totals up top. 8 and 3. So at least 4 questions from here. If 4 questions from here, then 2 from here, 5 from here, and 1 from here, and 6 and 0 could also be a possibility, since the question is not restrictive about attempting both sections. Just making sure of that. So 8C4 into 3C2 plus 8C5 into 3C1 plus 8C6. So 8C4 into 3C2, 210, 8C5 into 3, 168, and 8C6. 28. So a total of 210 plus 168 plus 28. That gives me a total of 406. And yes, that's the correct answer. Then part 3 says candidates must either choose both question 1 and question 2 in part A or choose neither of these two questions. So again, this is something that we've seen before as well. So I'm going to say part A question 1, part A question 2, part and since there's no other restriction on any other part, so I'm going to say all other questions, all others. So there's one question that's called question 1, there's one question that's called question 2, and since there were a total of 11, there are 9 other questions. So they can either select both of these and then 4 from here, or neither of them. So I think that's pretty simple. 9C4, 1C1 and 1C1 are 1, plus 9C6. So 9C4, because you've chosen both question 1 and question 2, that gives me 126. And 9C6 gives me 84. So I get a total of 210. That's the correct answer. You can see up top. I'm just going to move this to the left just so that you can see it clearly. Okay. I will spot. That's question number 10. It says a group of 8 friends travel to the airport in 2 taxis, P and Q. Each taxi can take 4 passengers. The 8 friends divide themselves into 4, one group of taxi P and one group for taxi Q, with John and Sarah traveling in the same taxi. Find the number of different ways in which this can be done. So let's do this. When John and Sarah are traveling in the same taxi, I can say that 2 of these seats are already taken. Okay. Now, what I think is the most important thing to notice in this question is that it's not they're not arranging themselves on the seats. They are just choosing which taxi to go in. So let's say John and Sarah are here. So 2 of these places are already taken. What I'm going to say is that this could be 6 friends remaining, 2 seats remaining in taxi P, so 6C2, and the others all end up in the other taxi, so 4C4. So that's when they are in taxi P. If John and Sarah were in taxi Q, I would say that again this is 6C2 taxi Q and 4C4 for the other taxi. So I think that makes it simple. 6C2. And you'll add up these 2 cases. Why would you add them up? Why? Because the event gets completed when they are all in a particular taxi. So this is 15 and this is another 15, and that gives me a total of 30 for the first part. Okay, let's talk about the second part. It says find the number of different seating arrangements that are now possible for the 8 friends when each taxi can take 1 passenger in the front row and 3 passengers in the back. Mark sits in the front of taxi P. So Mark has taken a position. He's no longer letting anyone sit on this position. So when the others come in, they can only sit in the back seats. And John and Sarah sit in the back seat of taxi P, and they also want to sit next to each other. So they're sitting in a box then. They're no longer willing to sit on distant seats. Okay, so let's talk about taxi P first. The first seat is taken. The back row consists of two dashes. If you see them vertically, I've drawn the dashes vertically this time. So I'm going to say that two elements are being arranged. One is the seat on its own, and the other is John and Sarah sitting together on two seats next to each other. But John and Sarah can shuffle between themselves as well. Okay, and then what is important to also understand is that this seat could be occupied by any of the other five people. So what needs to be done first is, before I go into 2 factorial into 2 factorial, I would say that one of the people, there are 5 people left, gets chosen for taxi P and is seated in taxi P. Then he decides to arrange at the back, on the back seats, with John and Sarah, shuffling together, or switching seats with this third passenger who came in, or the fourth passenger, because Mark was already there. Mark doesn't get shuffled because Mark is already there. Now, since there are 4 people left, so I'm going to say 4C4. Now, you see the event is not complete right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep multiplying. And what I do is I arrange them as well, because they want to sit now. There's a seating arrangement. Let's see if I get the correct answer. So I multiply all of this together and see if I get the correct answer. I get a total of 480, and yes, that's the correct answer. So I hope these 10 questions were productive for you. Try solving them again. I'm going to upload a blank handout with a link in the description. Make sure to like and subscribe before you end this video. Please also watch Marathon 2 for permutations and combinations. You will find the recorded video in the playlist. Thank you.